Hello, and welcome to Snide's Return, a tabletop roleplay podcast. My guest today emerges from the mist to offer services of heroism and escapism. She is at home at the gaming table and in a castle. She brings trope-twisting, gender-bending, adventure-crafting, connection-making opportunities to those willing to be more than the sum of their parts. With a song in her heart, it is an absolute pleasure to welcome Dungeon Master, content creator, TTRPG educator, and coach, Beth the Bard. Beth, welcome to the show.
Thank you. That was a really fantastic intro. Wow.
Well, thank you. I mean, thank you for doing so much that allows me to write such an intro. So, thank you so much for joining me, Beth. Before we get into some of the things I've alluded to there in the introduction, how did you get into tabletop role-playing games, please?
It was actually back during Stranger Things era when that first came out and D&D was kind of busting into popularity again, so to speak. It was the first time I had looked at it seriously because my kids were really into the show and they were like, "What is this game and where can we get it?" And so um I focus a lot on gaming for our family because it's one of those things that like it kind of builds lifetime bonds between
Mm-hmm.
people as well as like between friends and with parents and their children. So I was like, yeah, of course we're going to learn this game and get really into it. And then I got like a little too into it, I guess, or whatever. Um, yeah, I got it, and we watched actual plays on YouTube to learn how to play it because I couldn't understand the directions at all. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and then, yeah, that's it. Just kept going from there. I started out as a family dungeon master, and then I was DMing for my kids' homeschool co-op, and then just kind of kept running with it. And I still make money as a professional dungeon master to kids and teenagers,
Mm.
and then got into the publishing side of things in 2021. Yeah.
So, from all of that, when did you realize that D&D was obviously the inspiration to play came from Stranger Things and possibly some other media at the time, and then you sort of picked the game up and then learnt the game as you went through. When did you know that it had clicked with you and your family?
um I would say definitely not the first time we played because the first time was a disaster. I was like, I'm flipping through, I'm like, okay, goblins, cave, what's a d20? Like we had no clue. But about like the second or third time we sat down and gave it another shot, and just seeing the excitement on my family's face as they were playing their characters and digging in. And we had a whole situation where I don't even remember the specifics, but in the story we had like knocked out and tied up some person that worked in a kitchen or something like that, and we were like, okay, we're going to put them over there for safety and then deal with the situation. And then we finished up the game, and sometime into that night when everyone was supposed to be in bed,
Hmm.
we all kind of were like, oh my god, we forgot the guy, he's tied up, we gotta. And so the visceral reaction we all had together
Hmm.
realizing that made me understand like how powerful storytelling and collaborative storytelling is.
Yeah.
And I was kind of dead sold on it right at that moment, and it's
Ah,
been like that ever since, obviously. Like
yeah, no, that's amazing. And so, once you'd formed this connection, this bond, as you already had as a family, but now as a group with respect to D&D, where did that transition from DMing at the home table and then the co-op school, and then when did you go from sort of the de facto DM to a paid DM? What was that transition like?
It was kind of immediate. I jumped right in. The only time I've ever DM'd for free was with my kids because when I
Okay.
moved over, well, and then some volunteer stuff at the library and stuff like that during the summers.
Hmm.
But um, when I went into the homeschool co-op, it was immediately a paid opportunity. I was like, I taught like journalism and stuff like that. And I was like, well, here's another workshop idea. Can we do this Dungeons and Dragons thing? And they're like, you're going to have to sell us on how this is educational because the state's not going to pay for it if it's not. And I was like, let me tell you. And yeah, I ended up starting several D&D workshops, sessions that I was running, campaign building stuff, as well as crafts. We did like a semester where I taught kids how to make maps for their D&D
Mm.
sessions and things like that. And so I started making full-time living on it kind of immediately before I even felt like I was really good at D&D yet. Like I hadn't even really finished reading the books yet,
Mm.
and I was already making money on it. And then COVID happened,
It did.
and and that gig kind of got pulled away, and I was like, well, that sucks. That was an amazing career possibility. And then I
Mm.
found that the internet exists and there's a whole community online for that kind of thing as well. And so I
Yeah.
transitioned into that. That took some time to, because it's kind of rebuilding from scratch. But
Mm.
yeah, and now I'm here.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll move on several fronts, in fact, because there is a whole raft of questions that definitely lead on from there. But so people can find and follow and potentially get a game booked to play with you at your table. Where can we find you, Beth, and everything you're associated with, please?
So my website is beththebard.com. I'm on all the social media channels at It's Beth the Bard. And so like Twitter is my main. I'm trying to get more involved in Instagram. I just started doing Twitch. We'll see where that goes.
Hmm.
Um, I don't currently have any actual tables available. I don't. So my partner does do tables through like Start Playing Games and stuff, but I do all mine separate,
Hmm.
like through my own systems, and then I mostly work with teenagers still. That's most of my sessions each week are teens, but the adults I try to do that through Ko-fi and stuff like that. But
Okay. Yeah.
don't currently have any of those available because I try to keep those as limited as I can currently to focus more on publishing
Of
and
course.
writing and that kind of stuff. But yeah, if anything does come up available, I will be posting about it all over social media. So
All right. Well, I will make sure there are links down in the description below this podcast. So please scroll down, support Beth, support uh, all of the wonderful projects, some of which, many of, if not all of which, we'll be touching on very shortly. So please scroll down, follow those links, and support Beth, Beth the Bard, where possible. So once you sort of locked in and engaged with D&D as not only a source of income, but a source of joy and a source of adventure and exploration. Which do you run uh, pre pre-made modules, or do you homebrew a lot of your content for your tables? How do you sort of turn the D&D system into your own in that respect?
so I am a big lover of fan fiction. Always have been, always will be. So I do use official D&D content, but I like to say that I ruin it enough to make it my own thing. But I use it as a base. So I've run
Mm.
a lot of sessions of Lost Mine of Fandelver, but I've made it more horror. So when I heard that they're actually taking Lost Mine and turning it into like I think they were talking about cosmic horror or something like that as a full campaign, I was like, yes, because I've already been ruining it into horror. um, I've run a lot of Curse of Strahd,
Mm.
and then gender bent it and changed a bunch of stuff, made it my own. Starting from the first time I ran through it, actually, because I read it and was immediately like, no, on this, this, and this.
Mm.
So, and Wild Beyond the Witchlight is another one that I have run several times now. Again, have made it a lot more Shadow Fae kind of themed instead of just pure whimsy and cutesy.
Mm.
I think as far as official modules, that's all I really touched on. I've read through no, I have run a couple Candlekeep. I'm going
Right.
to start digging into the Radiant Citadel.
Hmm.
because I have a Wild Beyond the Witchlight group that just finished last week and they want to continue on. I was like, I feel like Radiant Citadel is a good transition for that. So let's move into that. I have no idea what it's about. I mean, I know what it's about, but I haven't actually read any of it yet. And I'm going to start
Yeah.
doing that tomorrow. Um, but yeah, other than that, like as far as homebrew stuff, it's still all fan fiction. So like the Frankenstein book is very fan fiction on shows and books and things that I love.
Yeah, there's some amazing touchstones, and we will get there very soon. But I'm intrigued as to why. No, that's the wrong way of phrasing it. What is it about horror that sort of draws you in? You've mentioned sort of twisting certain modules, and some of the touchstones you've mentioned are within the sort of the realms of gothic horror and horror. What is it about that sort of genre or theme or trope that you enjoy the most when you run games or just separate to tabletop role playing games?
Um, so I've actually been sitting with this a lot, like trying to figure out why is it that I love horror so much, especially because I have trouble like watching horror on TV and stuff like that,
Hmm.
specifically body horror, which is hilarious because I am putting together a body horror campaign right now. But um it's super weird, right? But like I'm still so in love. Um I think it has to do with what makes the strongest impression on people in their childhood, and for me
Okay.
that was horror. So I fell deeply in love with like the dark fairy tales, the very, the original really gruesome versions of them.
Hmm.
I was very into Tim Burton. I was definitely that goth kid. Into vampires. Anne Rice was my entire personality through
Hmm.
6th grade, and so vampires became a big thing for me. I loved everything Guillermo del Toro, and I think just because, and obviously just all the great teen fiction around horror topics, like Darren Shan. I don't know if anybody if anybody out there knows who Darren Shan is. You're real niche, and I appreciate it.
Hmm.
Did like the Cirque du Freak series, and so very lots of vampire stuff,
Hmm.
and I just connected with it so strongly. I don't know why. Maybe because I was like, I'm such a cool goth kid or something. I have no idea. But either way, it felt so good. And I have just carried that forever. And I keep trying to replicate those feelings with everything I
Hmm.
do now as an adult. Because, like, growing up, I wanted to be a film director. I wanted to tell
Okay.
stories, really beautiful, broody gothic horror stuff. I wanted to be the female Tim Burton that, you know, took different spins on stuff, and uh didn't go that way. Turns out going into the film industry is something not very conducive to raising a family.
Hmm.
uh so yeah, and I didn't even discover that there were other forms of storytelling like this until I got into it and realized how applicable all of that still is here. So I feel like I'm coming back into all the childhood loves right now in this part of my adulthood. I'm like, yes, I want to do all of those things that I always dreamed about doing, but
Yeah.
people are going to get to like not just experience them by watching them, they're going to get to experience them by being a part of them, molding the stories themselves. And that is somehow ridiculously so much more exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you succeeded, and sort of taking all those things you've mentioned, you sort of uh, you released she is the ancient, which you mentioned having played through Ravenloft, Curse of Strahd, and sort of pointing out things to yourself that you were not happy with. I think that's a fair assessment. Um, and have sort of twisted and created this gothic horror version of that tale. So, what was it like? First of all, sort of uh, looking into that particular book and that setting, and sort of working out what you wanted to do with it, and then producing that for others to take into their D&D games with She is the Ancient.
Uh so it started out with me just running stuff. I didn't So when I first got into DMing and running these things, I didn't even take into consideration that people wrote stuff down that they did like this. And I absolutely had no idea that DM's Guild existed. So after going through changing things that I wanted to, and just running them for different groups, when I joined the online community. That's when at some point I discovered DM's Guild existed, and I was like, wait, I can take things that I've done and I write them down, and other people can buy them from. Wait, what? And it can be just like directly. Oh my god! And I got so excited and immediately was like, well, I've already been doing this. Okay, I'm going to do this. And within like that same month, I had set up with some acquaintances to start running a live stream to do this, because I was like, I'm going to run this live stream and then I'm going to publish something during the live stream and see if anybody cares about this at all. And so that's how I ended up on Gilding Light and running She is the Ancient. They actually helped me come up with a name because I was just calling it Gender Bent Strahd, and they were like, let's come up with something more creative. And I was like, okay. Um, there were so many bad ones we had to get through. It was like Lady of the Mist and all this stuff, right? And then I was like, oh, She is the Ancient? And everyone was like, yes, that right there. Stop, go with that. And so we started the show, and then partway through the show I was like, okay, I guess we'll go ahead and write this down. So I started writing and finished creating the book within a month.
Oh, wow.
And I gave myself a really hard deadline. I was like, I want to finish it by this date, but I don't trust myself because ADHD and procrastination. So I hired Ginny D. I was like, hey, I would love if you put out an ad on this day for me. And she was like, okay, just send me the book when you're done with it. And I was like, okay. And I was like, okay, so I got a month. So wrote it, designed it, sent it to her the day before she made the video and put it up. And I definitely was panicking at the end because I was like, nobody's going to care about this, and I'm going to embarrass myself by like just putting it out there, putting myself out there like that. And I was thankfully incorrect. So
you were, yeah. There will be a link to She is the Ancient down in the description below, but it's got so many positive reviews on the DM's Guild, and it's not the first time that it's been brought up in conversation that I've noticed. So it's got so much support for a book that sits within the realms and the mists of Ravenloft to sort of subvert the expectations that some people may have had within that setting. It's brilliant. So thank you for making it in such a short deadline and producing it, and wow.
It was real. I feel like it was kind of I'm going through and I'm doing the second edition right now, and I'm like, oh my god, these grammar errors! Like I was writing so fast. So yeah, I'm going through. I'm fixing stuff. I'm tweaking some stuff that I was like, you know what? I don't run it like that anymore. I actually have better ideas now. So I'm like changing some of the things, adding a lot more artwork. Some like community members got so excited about it, and they're like, oh, could I contribute this or this? And I'm like, yes, let's get some community contributions in here now. And so it's very exciting. It's still funny though, like how strong the imposter syndrome is though, because it's taken me, like I started working on the second edition in the middle of last year, like last May, I want to say. And it's taken me so long because I'm still convinced that nobody's going to like it. Like I have no idea why imposter syndrome is so strong, but it is. So
well, I'd hate to break it to you, but I think you're wrong. I think everybody will love it, but that's just another voice of support for you there. So with respect to that then, as a content creator, and we'll sort of move on to Daughter of Frankenstein very shortly, but as a content creator from first iteration to now, you're working on the sort of second version of She is the Ancient. What have you learned as a DM and as a content creator as you've gone through this process?
So as it pertains specifically to these publications?
More just what you as a person have taken away and learnt from doing these projects.
Okay. That one, first and foremost, this community is amazing. I I was really one of the reasons I was really scared to put myself out there, especially with like a feminist, like a very strong feminist take on something,
Mm.
was the criticism. I don't take criticism well. I'm very introverted. I have big anxiety, and I guess I'm sad girl, very easy. So I was very worried about criticism, and yeah, of course, there's criticism. There was actually kind of some. I I like to mention this where able to just kind of raise awareness. Some men in the community can be absolutely horrific,
Mm.
and I've got written proof of it. But the amount of people that are just so kind, so supportive, so enthusiastic, like they absolutely drown out the bad voices, the criticisms, the really upsetting stuff. Like the community is so freaking beautiful that it just gave me a lot of faith in humanity, which is sometimes hard to come by. So I learned that, yeah, people are wonderful, creators are delightful, and we should all be supporting each other all the time as much as possible, giving each other opportunities wherever we can.
Mm.
um I learned how to advocate for myself, how to grew a little bit of a spine, being like, oh, okay, this person's very mad about this thing, that means
Mhm.
I did something right. Okay, cool, we're gonna take that from it going forward now. And then, yeah, I guess just there's a really big sense of satisfaction in contributing to doing something
Mm.
with the community that makes the community better for more people, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, no, absolutely, and you're so right about the community. It's such a fantastic place, so supportive. 99% of the people I've met, and you mentioned that you've met, have been so supportive. Um, what I'd like to do now is sort of step too far and not too far. It sounds like I'm going to overstep, and that's not quite where I'm going with this. We're going to sort of fast forward to now and then work our way back in that
Bzzz.
respect. And yeah, I'll throw in some noise, some sound effects,
VHS
little.
noises here.
Uh, and because we've been speaking about your content creation side of things, bringing us right up to the present time of recording, and your Kickstarter, uh, Daughter of Frankenstein. What has it been like to sort of go back into or maintain that sort of gothic horror and bring this project to life?
To
Pun kind of intended.
real life. Yeah. It has been it's been, this project has definitely taken a lot longer. um we actually, my partner and I started working on it very shortly after I published She is the Ancient. I was on such a high and was like, I
Mm.
want to create everything. And so it actually started out as a DM's Guild supplement for Lamortia, Victor Mordenheim, all of that stuff. And
Mm.
the goal was to create like a whole book for each of the domains of dread, which I have given up on because not all of the domains actually spark joy in me. And so I was like, I can't force myself to do something I can't super connect with. So I would have only ended
Mhm.
up doing a few anyways. And I'll probably still publish some stuff for DM's Guild for Lamortia that, maybe stuff that doesn't make it into this.
Okay.
But yeah, we were building that, we were writing it together, and then at some point it just kept getting bigger and bigger because how creativity and inspiration, it's like, oh, we should do this and this and
Mhm.
this. And it got so big, I was like, hey, what if we like brought in other people and we made it more of a community project instead?
Mm.
And so that's when I started bringing in other writers, friends that I had that were trying to break into the industry as TTRPG writers that are like, oh, I love horror, I want to like jump into this. And it's like, come on in, let's do this. And so we've just been slowly piecing it together while, working full time and family
Mm.
and all the other things happening. And then it was just a few months ago when some drama was going down in the community regarding things like 5e. But I had a moment of panic because we were going to publish the Lamortia book on Valentine's Day. Very heart themed, the Unbreakable Heart and stuff, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But then people were talking about boycotting DM's Guild and things like that. And I was like, and then, just the stuff that Wizards was kind of pulling,
Yeah.
which I'm glad that, all that's resolved now. But at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, like maybe we don't give all of this IP to somebody else to take control of and take half of
Mm.
everything. Because most of what we've written, like, yeah, there's a framework here of Lamortia stuff, but it's also the exact framework of like Frankenstein stuff, which is public domain.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, the rest of this is all stuff that we were inspired by and ripped out of our souls and put onto into Google Docs. And I was like, what if we actually just kind of kept it and then kept building on this little world and made it its own thing? And so I kind of sat with that thought for a little bit and I had to mourn the whole, Lamortia going on DM's Guild because we were set on that for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And but then, the excitement of, oh my gosh, this could be our thing and we could just keep expanding on it and we can afford to bring more people in because, we can crowdfund and stuff like that
Mm.
was so overwhelmingly exciting. And so we made that decision, and 2 weeks later, I launched the Kickstarter because I have
Wow.
no chill. I have no idea how to like, let's do everything in a month. Like, let's just be
Let's just make it
wild.
happen. Let's just do it.
Yeah, so the book's pretty much written. We have to reroute story content that was Wizards IP, move it away from there, move
Mm-hmm.
it back towards just regular fan fiction for Frankenstein and other classics.
Mm-hmm.
But other than some minor rewriting and more artwork and things like that, it just, we just got to crowdfund it to be able to finish paying our contributors and be able to take time off to finish the layout for it and stuff. And then, yeah, we're going to send it out into the world, little baby to grow, and then hopefully do more with it. Just keep
Yeah.
adding to it.
So for those that haven't checked it out, and there will be a link in the description below, so please scroll down, follow that link, support the project, and when it's funded and available outside of Kickstarter, there'll be a link to it there as well. But if anyone hasn't followed that link and sort of checked out the project, what is Daughter of Frankenstein? Sort of broad brush sales pitch kind of level.
Daughter of Frankenstein is the story of what happened what happens within the generation after Victor Frankenstein, specifically with his daughter and her family, and the repercussions of what happened back when her dad did what he did, and how that
Mm-hmm.
kind of changed the land, the people, the social situations, all of that. And we've put it together in kind of like a 3-act operatic approach. It's more narrative driven. We do have like dungeon crawls and things like that, but the main focus of it is very narrative style.
Mm-hmm.
And so, act one, and if you break it all down, it's like 10 chapters of the 3 acts. And act one, you're within this city, which rather than keeping to how Frankenstein was written within like real world setting, I was like, I'm not comfortable ever using an actual real world setting because I mean, there's just so much to be considered when you do
Yes.
that. So I was like,
Yeah.
we're gonna make it our own little fantasy world, very much inspired by those places, but also inspired by all these other things. Um,
Mm.
but the first act, you get to be in Birkland, which is the city, like the main focus city within this area called Promethea, inspired by the story of Prometheus. And
Mm-hmm.
Frankenstein's called the modern Prometheus. So I was like, oh, that's perfect. We kind of sat with it for a little bit and shortened it to Promethea, and it's like, yes, that feels good. And so act one, you get to start in the city of Birkland, and it's very inspired by like Jack the Ripper, Sherlock Holmes, things like that kind of gritty inner city stuff. And then act two, brings the party out into the wilderness, which is a wild experience. um all the repercussions of what happened very much, affected everything. And that this act 2 is the one that's a lot more Frankenstein story focused,
Hmm.
as well as, if anybody's ever seen the movie Annihilation, when I was talking about how the wilderness was and how I wanted the vibe to be, my partner was like, I feel like there's this movie you need to see because it's kind of spot on. I watched it. I was like, oh my God, everything about this. So, yeah, that's a huge inspiration for that area. Pinocchio is an inspiration for Act 2. And I'm going to keep the reason why for that one a secret because that one's super fun. Um,
Mm.
there is, and then Act 3 is a lot more focused, so kind of back into the city and very focused on the university, because I got so excited about doing university stuff, both for
Mm.
the medical horror side of things, but also, like, I kind of loved Strixhaven. I've never run any Strixhaven or anything like that, but the idea of getting to build this school setting that can be experienced, either from somebody just investigating situations happening there, or if somebody wanted to actually be a student at the school. uh, I deep dove into that process and had so much fun with it. But Act 3 is very inspired by Full Metal Alchemist. These
Mm.
the supernatural magic and stuff of this is very, it's a lot less what D&D traditionally is, where it's like, oh, we've just got magic everywhere and we boom boom boom, right? It's much more give and take,
Okay.
like that Full Metal Alchemist, the way that kind of works. And oh no, I'm losing my train of thought. um
So,
it's that supernatural, uh very science focused magic.
okay. Yeah.
And as well as inspired by Resident Evil,
Nice.
which I think is going to be a really fun thing for people who are a fan, particularly of the show. Like, yes, Resident Evil Village. My partner did run me through that video game, and I was like, "Oh, I like this. I like this. Yes. Oh, I was gonna. Yep, just like that." I actually got more inspiration for like a new vampire setting from that than anything.
Oh,
But
nice.
the Resident Evil TV show, I got a lot of inspiration for Act 3.
Hmm. But that so many sort of key touchstones and inspirations and influences there, many of which people will recognize.
I feel like it helps people connect. Like, it's that same thing talking about, growing up, and it's like, what did I connect to and why and what makes me feel
Mm.
good? I feel like really pointing out the things that inspired us in our storytelling, all the little elements are going to help other people be like, "Oh my god, yes, this. I'm excited about this thing." And it's like, "Yes, you kind of understand without me having to
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
spoil anything."
Yeah, I was sort of having a look through the Kickstarter page. So Birkland, uh, is that, and I could be off base here, and obviously you'll tell me if I am. Burke and Hare,
Yep.
Birkland. Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay.
So Birkland, there's actually a scientist. I can't remember if he's Norwegian or Swiss or something like that. It's a scientist who specifically studied like the electric energy in the air. And so at first I was like, oh my gosh, of course we're gonna name Birkland after this guy. And then I was like, Burke, Birkland. And so I changed it from, because his was BERK, and so I changed it to
Right. Oh,
BURK because I
mm,
was like, yeah,
mm,
we're gonna add in some serial killer stuff here. But I'm very particular about any serial killer inspiration has to be from long dead people, where, like,
yes.
it's not currently, like, I'm absolutely not a fan of things like the Dahmer show that came out on Netflix. Like, I'm like,
Mm,
I'm never going to touch on um things that are still very um
current in that respect.
current. Yeah.
That's
I like
good.
the stuff that has turned into, almost part of the horror mythology,
Mm,
like Elizabeth Bathory.
yes.
Absolutely. Like, that's going to be the vampire setting we do next. So,
I'll make a note of that. And, future interview then. So the party within this dark opera, I think it's dark opera. The Kickstarter says dark academia in Berkland, but they work for a particular organization, also inspired. So could you just give a little bit of who the players would be and who they work for, and what options for players there would be within the book, please?
So, of course, players and game masters can come in and hit it however they would like, but the main focus of like the hook that we're giving is that so I had like a general idea for this because I really love like the Sherlock Holmes investigative style stuff. I love mysteries. And then I discovered the game Boston by Free League. And
Amazing.
that's like its whole thing. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, you can do this at the table like that. And so I was like, okay, I'm going back to the drawing board exactly where I left notes on that. And so I was very inspired by that approach. It's the our instead of the society, it's the Caligari Inquisition, because Cabinet of Dr. Caligari was a huge inspiration for me, and there's a lot of themes around it, but the theme I took away from it for this is how, like, in the end of the story, it's actually this, like, Caligari's this guy that is helping kind of treat and contend with the chaos, right? So I'm like, oh, the Caligari Inquisition is like they're there to help manage um supernatural situations, things like that. I got a lot of inspiration from the show Supernatural. I was like, oh, they're like hunters, but for this secret society, and they're going to be headquartered up in the city, and they're going to get things for their headquarters and stuff like that, because I always love playing in TTRPG situations where you have your space and you get to go home to your space and then go out and do the things, right? So that's the angle I'm coming at it with, is that you are part of this and you're set up and you're meant to go in and start investigating and uncovering these mysteries and figuring out all the interwoven messed up things that are happening, and you get to decide which side are you going to take out of these multiple viewpoints of these different factions, and there's going to be repercussions for every decision, and I love that so much. But also, it is set up enough that if somebody was like, oh, we don't want to do this investigator approach, I'd rather be like a student at the university, like we're just a group of students taking
Yeah.
like learning surgery and stuff like that, you could go that route. You could just be regular D&D adventurers coming through that way. And then you could be like a local. I've been running a Promethea game for a couple months now, and
Okay.
those players took the route of being locals. So one is actually is a surgeon who graduated from the university. One
Okay.
is a created, so somebody that basically is the same type of creature as Frankenstein's monster. Um, and then other people are like, I'm a woodworker from Promethea. I'm a fisher. I'm this, right? So they all took the we're locals and things are happening and we've banded together for whatever reason we decided on, and we're doing our thing. So
Like the Scooby Gang
the
almost, but not
Scooby Doo
quite.
gang, yeah. I love that stuff so much.
Mm. No, amazing. So with all these sort of touchstones and things, and I hope people are inspired just by listening to it. The Kickstarter page and the introduction video are fantastic and really sort of
Thank
set
you.
it and help sell it. I mean, you made it; it's fantastic. So I'm just reminding people how good it is. So if you haven't checked it out, follow the link in the description below and sort of check out the Kickstarter and back. And again, if the Kickstarter is complete, I'm sure there'll be backer kit and all that sort of
Oh yeah,
following
we're gonna
stuff.
use backer kit.
So don't worry, you haven't missed it. This book will exist and available to you. But go and check it out. So if someone was to say, please don't stop listening, but be able to go and follow the link and go and check out the Kickstarter. What can they get at the various tiers? What is available to someone that wants to back this project?
So I love seeing other people's Kickstarters, and I love digging. I'm a marketer at heart, even though like I'm bad at socializing. Um, I really wanted to do a lot more, but seeing as it is my me and it is my
Mm.
partner that have whipped it together, and he doesn't really like dealing with it. So I'm like, okay, I feel like we should keep it as simple as possible and focus as much as possible on just the core product itself.
Hmm.
So we've got a PDF of the book, we've got a hardcover of the book, no special fancy edition of the hardcover or anything. It's just the same hardcover everybody would be getting, to just kind of keep the stress levels down for us. Um, and then I added in a couple tiers where I was like, okay, we've got a beautiful map. I will go and print it and personally send those out. And we've got dice, like these beautiful black matte dice. I call them the noir set. Um,
Ooh.
and then we also decided to throw in a couple of virtual tabletop modules for it. So we're doing Roll20, and I want to say it's
It is
Foundry.
Foundry, yeah.
Foundry.
It is
I was
Foundry.
like, what is it the DM's Guild uses? Because I want this to be very compatible with people who use
Hmm.
DM's Guild in case they want to use this content for like their Lemordia setting or something like that.
Hmm.
So I went with those two, and then just an assets packet for if you're like me, because I don't use virtual tabletops. I DIY everything and screen share over Zoom.
Nice.
Because I work with kids, I'm not actually allowed to have them use VTTs.
Fair enough.
So a digital kit for assets, for maps and tokens and stuff for people like me, and that is it currently. That's all we've got. um, but oh, we do have a couple higher tiers where you get to become a prominent NPC in the story. So
Hmm.
we've had a couple people grab those, and I'm super excited to work with them on putting that together. Uh, yeah, we've considered adding journals and stuff like that, but we'll see after it hits its minimum. Right now, I'm happy to just focus on the main product and just hit that minimum so we can get it sent out.
There are. It's well on track at time of recording, so I have every confidence that it'll get funded. And uh, you say that that's it with respect to what's available. That's still a fantastic workload and a fantastic offering to those that want to pick up this and have it supported either a PDF hard copy or on their virtual tabletop of choice, or not on a virtual tabletop, but available to them to use across.
Oh, and I will note that all of the purchases of like either the PDF or the hardcover, it comes with a digital PDF that's like a player version of things. So
Mm,
you have like that to give to your players, and they can do like their custom character creation and things from that. Learn a little bit about like the area they'll be exploring, and it'll be easy printable handout stuff as well for like character sheets and maps
mm.
and stuff like that. I thought being a professional DM and like knowing how much I have to keep things organized and like give my players like here's what you need. You don't need the
Yeah,
whole 300-page book. That's from me. This for you. I wanted to do the same thing. So I will say that that is also in all of it.
yeah. Player resources in that respect are so fantastic. So thank you for having that in there as well. Always appreciated. So this is where we sort of having come to where we are now, and please follow the link support Daughter of Frankenstein. But it's released under Bard House Media, your company.
Yes.
So what was it like to go from DMing at home, DMing for the school and children, and then sort of stepping into pro, and then setting up this company of your own? What have these steps been like, and what more can we expect from Bard House?
Yeah, so this yeah, up until Bard House, it was like, okay, I'm just gonna focus on I'm Beth, this is what Beth is making, and I'm gonna keep it simple, right? I'm always just trying to, because my brain tries to overcomplicate everything anyway. So I'm like, how do
Mm,
I keep simplifying? And then when the Frankenstein setting became more of a group project, I was like, I cannot publish this under Beth the Bard. Like that's doesn't make any sense. First of all, this is a collaborative project. And so I kind of
Mm,
was sitting with it and was like, I think that maybe it's time to consider creating like a company, like an independent publishing space where this is for everybody and it's not focused on me or my partner who has a strong presence in the community as well. I want this to be
mm.
a place for everyone. And so I sat on it for a long time. I almost called it like Caligari something because again, there's that
Nice.
inspiration. My
Nice.
partner and I settled on Bard House Media because the Bard stuff is really important to both of us. And then I was like, it sounds like Birdhouse, and so
I
I
thought
was
you were
like,
going to say it
it's like
sounds. I thought you were going to say it sounds like Bloomhouse,
oh.
the horror production company. Anyway, moving on.
um yeah, so like we've got our Discord set up as like this is our home together and here's our living room space of discussions and things like that, so we're
Hmm.
just digging in. And yeah, we hope to that this if this Kickstarter funds, this will launch the first Bard House Media publication, and then we just hope to keep pumping them out from there and just get so many people involved in this. And yeah, it's an exciting new venture.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look forward to sort of to seeing what else or what comes from Bard House and your good self in the future. So you have taken on the DM role, taken on professional DMing, taking on publishing, content creation, uh, crowdfunding, i.e., Kickstarter and things like that. How do you find time to go and sit in a castle in the UK, for example, and come and roll dice with other members of the community and sort of uh, invest time into that as well?
How did I find time? I actually have no idea. I'm still not sure how I did, but we pulled it off somehow, and it was a wild ride. Yeah, I pretty much had to take that whole month off of doing any other like running sessions or
Mm,
writing or things like that. I was like, I can't have this many expectations on myself, especially my first time ever traveling out of the country like that.
mm,
And being like I'm pretty open about like my mental health and stuff like that. And I keep on like a very strict routine to keep things kind of going smooth because I have
mhm,
the tendency to get very depressed very easily, shut down, and then kind of shut the world out for like 2 years at a time, kind of
mm,
thing. So I focused very much on trying not to do anything else during that time and just focusing on getting over to the castle. We did 2 rounds over there. It was amazing. The people I met were phenomenal. We got home and I slept for 2 weeks.
wow.
No joke. I could not get out of bed. But then I was like, okay, whew, I think we handled that well. We're going to slowly reacclimate and get going again. Obviously, I could not have done that if I wasn't able to like set aside some savings to make that happen.
Mm,
So I I understand the struggle of like wanting to be able to do all the things and not financially being able to. I have a really good support system here. I had my kid's dad was more than happy to just take them on the whole time,
mm.
and I have yeah. So it's e- support systems, big deal.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so with that as such an experience as it was, is that something you'll hopefully do again in the future, or are you looking to sort of lean in? You mentioned picking up Twitch and maybe doing things from that perspective now, sort of being more present in and streaming rather than uh, fantastic settings in that respect.
Um, so as far as the castle, yes, I'm going back in July. Um, and I actually still have a couple I had a full table, and then Ginny D joined the castle and people are like, "Ah, Ginny D." So
Ooh.
there are a couple spots that have opened up at my table if anyone wants them. But and then oh no, what was the other one? Oh, my brain. We were talking about that, and what was the other question?
It was to do with will you be sort of concentrating on streaming and that
Oh,
side of
streaming, that's
things,
right.
and sort of putting more emphasis on that side of things while you try and understand and work through the streaming side of the D&D community.
So I currently don't have plans to get into doing actual plays, really. Like, I think I'm going to do them once in a while. Like, I like joining them as a player for charity
Hmm,
stuff. I'm going to be doing Jasper's Game Week as a dungeon master.
amazing.
Um, but otherwise, I actually find that running D&D or playing D&D live on Twitch so far has mostly killed my joy for it. And I think it's
Okay.
because I get so shy and anxious that I can't really enjoy it, and it's much more of a chore than an enjoyment, unlike my partner
Okay.
who could do it all day every day. Loves it. So I as far as the Twitch stuff, I'm more kind of I need a hobby that I'm not trying to actively make money from. And so I
Hmm,
was like, well, I'm not going to take Twitch seriously. I'm going to get on there and I'm going to just talk about what I'm doing, what I'm
hmm,
working through, read D&D books on there or something, maybe play video games once in a while and just use it as a way to connect and socialize more with the
hmm.
community on a really chill basis.
Yeah, no, sounds good. Sounds good. I'm there. I'm there. So you mentioned sort of running D&D and sort of playing it and things like that. Are there other systems that you are? And you mentioned Vason earlier. Are there other systems that you are looking to play or have played and had sort of good experiences with outside of the core, not the core, outside of the D20 system that many of us are familiar with?
So I haven't done much outside of it because like all of my students that I work with and stuff they pretty much only use 5e with the exception of one kid that also likes Starfinder.
Hmm.
Um but yeah, I've tried Boston. I really connected with it. I have played a game of Vampire the Masquerade and a couple games of Fallout, but I didn't roll dice and I didn't make my own character. So I feel like I didn't experience it properly. It was much more just storytelling session.
Right.
Yeah, so I didn't end up actually rolling anything. So I was like, I didn't learn the game. Um, there are other ones I'd like to try. I want to try Morkborg. It looks like it would be right up my
Yeah.
alley.
Hmm.
um, my partner is actually creating his own system called Back to Basics. It's based on the Modifius 2D20 system. And
Yes.
I've played some stuff in that, and I connected very strongly with it. It's much more narrative based. I
Mm.
like that a lot. So he's working through that book. I'm designing it for him, and he's putting up chapter by chapter. So I like that one. And other than that, I'd say I'm mostly interested in Vampire the Masquerade and Mork Borg, but I'm very scared to actually dive in because my ability to hyperfixate I'm like I need to finish what I'm working on, and that way if I go over there and I get overexcited and try to make it my new personality, it's
Yeah.
not going to ruin anything I'm currently working on.
Fair enough. No, that's fair enough. But yeah, Morborg is a great game and very much sits in the theme of the horror that you like, and obviously
Ugh, and
vampire
just
can be
the
played on a spectrum.
yeah well, and the visual design of Morkborg that I've seen, I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my god, yes, I love good visuals.
Mm. Yeah. No, fantastic. Uh, so I mean, we have spoken about a number of things. Uh, we'll touch on now, and then I'll move on to something else very shortly. But the TTRPG University, where did that stem from, and can we what can we glean from that? What can we learn at the TTRPG University?
So that one's not getting enough of my love and attention right now, and I'm so sad about it. But it's gonna be getting it again after the Kickstarter. Um TTRPG University is actually a website that I've had since 2017 or 18. It
Hmm.
started out as hashtag game school because as a homeschooling mom, I did a lot of emphasis on game schooling my kids. So we learned chemistry through like chemistry board games and things like that,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
I just find it's a really good way to learn things. And so when I was doing that, I created that at the same time I got into D&D and was like, wow, D&D is educational and this and that. And so I created it for my students at the school where I was running stuff. And um since then it has I was like, well, why don't we make it more for everyone, including like all my grown-up community friends. So it got a rebrand of TTRPG University,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still working on converting all the old blog posts in and stuff like that. But I have a background in blogging, and
Okay.
K-commerce
Mm.
has been other than education. My all my work has been K-commerce and blogging. I actually own a couple of blogs that are still running in the background and bringing
Right.
passive income that I don't even like look at anymore.
Mm.
It's a hobby, but I am really excited to get e-courses up on TTRPG University. There was supposed to be one up already. It's actually ready to go. I just need to take the time to hit publish on it.
Right. Gotcha.
But yeah, I want to it's stuff that I've actually run for teenagers a lot already, so I've already taught these things. The first one going up is basically how to level up as a GM, how to organize yourself enough as a game master to go professional comfortably.
Mm.
And then my partner has helped me put one together on live streaming actual plays and stuff, because that's not my forte, but he's really good at that. And I know that some people want to get into it, but it's hard to get information on how to do things as
Yeah.
easily. So we're like, let's just go ahead and start educating people on what we figured out. So another thing is, this book project, um, being my first collaborative book project that I managed, I did a terrible job at it. It was a mess the whole time. And we're all coming out in one piece, but my God, I had no idea what I was doing. But now
Mm.
I know a lot. And so I'm like, I'm going to package everything I know and put it up there for other people to not have to go through 2 years of struggling to figure it out.
Mm.
As well as like how to write one shots, pretty much everything that I wanted to understand and couldn't figure out without getting my hands dirty. I'm definitely gonna give everything I know about Kickstarter after running a couple of those and learning from all those mistakes.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything. There's just a lot of ways to involve yourself in the TTRPG community, as well as how to make a career out of it. There are so many different angles you could go at, and
Mm.
I feel like being a ADHD jack of all trades type person, I have dipped my toes in so many of them at this point, and I'm like,
Mm.
okay, what are you interested in? I've got you. Like, let's get you going. So it's kind of and TTRPG University is under Bard House Media, because it's kind of under the exact same philosophy of how
Right.
do we bring the community together, how do we benefit people, how do we lift people up and push them forward, and um just it's that same atmosphere is the goal of that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they're brilliant. And made a few notes there for things that I'll be looking into at some stage. Again, I've too many plates on fire, spinning and juggling or
So
whatever's
many.
happening. Uh, so we have spoken about your introduction to DMing. She is the ancient daughter of Frankenstein, Bard House Media, TTRPG. You do a lot. Is basically what I'm getting at. Is there anything at this point of the interview that we haven't spoken about that you want to bring up here towards the end?
Oh gosh, I actually think that might have covered all of it. I I just get an idea and I'm like, let's do this thing, and I just like to make and put. So I think that's all of it though. Yeah.
All right. Well, uh, so we can support you and in a number of different ways. Would you like to remind us where we can find you and everything you're associated with, please, Beth?
So my main website is beththebard.com, and I definitely need to go update it as soon as possible. But I try to keep everything that's going on, what I'm working on, what my partner and I are working on, what Bard House is going to be working on, kind of
Hmm.
hubbed in that spot. And then I am on social media: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Twitch. those things.
Facebook.
Not very much Facebook. Facebook is very, it's too much. But I have one there. Everything's under at It's Beth the Bard. And yeah, that pretty much covered. I'll just keep updating the site with everything going on there. So
All right. Well, I will make sure there are links down in the description below to come and support you on social media, come and support you through Ko-Fi, come and support you on Instagram and all those sorts of good things. The Kickstarter and the DMs Guild link for She is the Ancient will also be down below. So please scroll down, follow those links, support Beth in all the amazing work that she does. Beth, it's been such a pleasure to get to learn more about you, your creation processes, your DMing process, and the future of not only your personal projects but the community projects you're working with. I'd love to get you back on the show in the future for further interviews if you'd be willing to join me.
oh my gosh, yes.
Perfect. I mean, I'll potentially throw out an offer for a one shot in a particular system at some point, but
yes.
I can negotiate that after this. But yeah, it's been such a pleasure and a real honor for me to have had you on the show as a guest. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for bringing me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you'd like to learn more about the show, then go to www.snydersreturn.squarespace.com. Alternatively, you can find us over on Twitter @ReturnSnyder. We have a Linktree link in the description of this episode. And if you want to support us, come and join us over on Patreon. And we also have a Discord server. Please leave us a review because we'd love to learn how to improve the channel and provide better content out for those who are listening. Until we speak again, thank you.